Part of my work is just doing my work, making sure my writing is on point, making sure my voice is good, my music is solid and mixed well. And like I was describing the album, the sounds, I have so many different sounds. I think that just by itself and my whole presentation of it, me being a dark-skinned female as well, like the presentation and the vision that I see in my mind is very important for me to deliver that, because we haven't seen that. There's certain things that we haven't seen, and I believed in myself that I can present those things in such a way that they would be so attractive and so stimulating and so higher vibing that it'll be almost undeniable. If it's not this one thing, it's that thing. If it's not this thing, it's this other thing. So, you know, I'm just a mad scientist right now. I don't mind being, you know, the militant, accidental sex symbol philosopher, you know, gypsy. Like I don't mind it at all. But if it ain't one thing, it's gonna be the other, because I just have so many layers.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to share your thoughts about, you know, all of the recent string of violent attacks against people of color, including the fatal shooting of Ahmaud Arbery, right? So, you know, we're no stranger to these type of things, but for it to be going on in these periods and times, it's almost like, you know, oh man, as if we ain't got enough to deal with, now we got to deal with this too.
Right.
So I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of share your thoughts on the situation.
Well, I'm definitely going to take this opportunity to send more energy, more love and light and protection energy over their spirits in transition and their families and our earthly transition, and us as a community. With my critical think cap that has the light bulb everlasting, you know, flashing over my head, I thought it was very interesting that now is the time where that video would resurface, and now is the time where the case will be brought back, and now is the time where they're going to start the hunting for the arrests. And, you know, I seen a post a month ago that said Black outrage is the new marketing strategy. I've been in conversations with my creative partner about that for a few months. But let's say it just so happened that the videos did come out now. I feel personally that, not even personally, just understanding how the layers of law and government work, somebody had these videos. You know, that case was already a case months ago. So a part of me feels like there's a whole Rolodex of cases, and we know there is, because if we don't know from news stories, we all know somebody or know somebody who knows somebody who has some kind of case somewhere, and it just never was pursued or never finished, or it was a cold case or something. But there's probably a whole Rolodex of cases that I feel are just being held on to for just this kind of rollout, that it happens to come out so that we happen to get caught up in it. And I don't know, I haven't looked lately, but every time something pops off, whether it's something in social justice or aliens or whatever have you, it's like some kind of bill is getting passed somewhere.
Right, like it's the art of distraction, right?
Exactly. So for me, not my first, but maybe my third or fourth thought was like, I wonder what's going on somewhere else while we're all talking about this, especially because an arrest is just an arrest. And I retweeted or reposted something about that the other day. Like, George Zimmerman was arrested, when the whole thing went down. So we don't need to be like, oh, thank God, now they're arrested. It's all going to be taken care of now. Like, no, that's just still one step in a whole process. Like, there's no indictment. There's no, there's a whole process. And even if it does get, ended as well as it can be, like I said, the timing of it is just very peculiar and conspicuous.
Yeah, I feel, kind of similar because, I remember the first story that I read, or the first headline that I saw about the whole Ahmaud Arbery situation. It was like they made sure that they pointed out that that it was a black jogger killed by, white people. So it was. I felt like they were pulling my strings almost.
It was a pull. It was a direct pull at the strings. Absolutely. And especially us, like, this is how, not to be like, the guy in the kufi in the prison cell, but like, this is how they get us every time, emotionally first, always. It's hard because you can't tell someone to not feel a certain way about a horrific death, or especially we have such a history of this. So it's hard to tell somebody, like, I just need you to, I understand everything you feel, but I also just need you to look at this about it, or I need you to detach from the anger that you feel, because I need you to also see how this pans out. And so it's hard, but it's I don't know. I think some of us who maybe have been through certain things where we realize that emotion would kill us before something else would. I don't know if that makes sense. I just feel like there's a certain kind of mentality where you realize that just because I feel a certain way about a situation doesn't mean that that's exactly what that situation is, and that that's the best thing I need to be doing about that situation. I really keep a faith and a prayer that more of that vibe will persist in our community. And if not, that we'll just kind of get to the point where it's just like, I mean, we should have by now, but we'll just get to the point where it's just like, wow, they keep playing the same cards and we're not any better for it, any better for going along with it. So, we really need to just build our own, and it doesn't even necessarily mean our own, because sometimes it is your own. That's the reason why you're in that position, because certain people keep holding certain cards and not wanting to go out and be our own leaders. And that's fine. Everybody doesn't have to be, but at some point you have to build your own and not be tethered to these strings that they keep pulling. So, yeah, it's heartbreaking, but we have to, like I did in the song, like we have to have a higher mind about this, because it's just going to keep happening. And there's so many cases. If this was months ago, who knows what we didn't hear about from months and months ago, or, from months from now, what it's going to be, or, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, like I'm with you, man. I just think it's important for people to take a step back and really look at the bigger picture, right? And use some critical thinking skills, because, I just know how the media works and how the government likes to use the media to manipulate people. And, I would just hate for us to get caught up in distractions while they're over in the corner doing some devious stuff, right?
Yo, it's a lot. It's so much going on in the world, like in this whole time of Corona. Mm-hmm. That's part of why I wrote the song, because it's like, we can't even cover it. I know we're on a time limit, but there's so much going on politically and geographically, and even on the layers of, like you said, how media works, celebrities, the churches, like the big churches, and then the trickle down of all the churches and religious leaders. And there's what Trump is doing, yeah, but there's also what your state leaders are doing, and what your mayors and governors are doing, and what the Democrats as well as the Republicans in your communities are doing to your community. Like, there's just as many Democrats responsible, if not more, for how your neighborhood is than anything Trump is actually doing. But these are the things we don't talk about, because either we don't know to talk about them, or it just doesn't feel as, it's really easy and convenient to be able to talk about Trump because he's a character, and obviously he's in the big seat. But there's a whole bunch of other seats and a whole bunch of other things going on that are kind of setting up how everything looks. And yeah, there's been so much going on, not to mention all the new things that are popping up with technology. And I know a lot of people are hesitant to talk about 5G, but it is a thing. It is a thing. Whether or not you believe in how it affects the body and what it means to us in terms of artificial intelligence and stuff going forward, it still is a thing. And who knows what's been being built and taken down and constructed around us while most of us have been indoors, Who really knows for sure? So, it's critical thinking is highly, highly important, and having a grasp on political science. And there's a reason why they call it science, and political theater, and media is absolutely a part of it. George L. Jackson talked about this exact thing in Blood in My Eye and Soledad Brother. He literally talked about the layers of social control, and media is an exact extension of government control of the people. But Government is supposed to be by the people and for the people, and we need to never forget that. It's how it's supposed to be.
Right. It's like America hadn't been living up to the brochure, right?
Right. Like, we know the whole, like, the system was built to be like this. Like, yeah, we get it. But at the same time, like, the whole idea of America was a great idea. Like, it was a great idea. And there's no reason why we can't live in that America, you know? And we've had countless examples of people in our community who've achieved that kind of success, either monetarily and financially or mentally prosperous, or, you know, people who've just been able to manifest wonderful ideas and wonderful businesses and organizations and land and you know, and spaces and buildings and homes. There's no reason why we can't. Your Black Wall Street, there's no reason why we can't be doing this again, but we have to understand where we are. We have to understand the law of the land, how to speak for ourselves, and, you know, what laws are being used against us, what laws that we're. It's kind of like when you sign up for Instagram, like you have to hit the accept, like I accept the terms or whatever. All right, if you want to be a part of Instagram, you understand that you waive certain rights. That's how it is in America. Like if you want to be involved in certain things, you have to understand what the rights are and what rights have been taken away. If you're going to build for yourself, you got to understand what rights you have to be responsible for in order to stand on your own. You just have to. If you don't understand, you can't stand on your own too if you don't understand how. You know.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end it on. So before we get up